Hello everybody, welcome to the second part of Kenny RH's Blu-ray Steelbook movie madness. Just before I start today, I'd just like to throw a few observations about why and what I collect in the movie Steelbook business, if you like. When I first started collecting these about 7 years ago now, the aim was simple. It was to be a completist because I loved the format, and the aim was to collect them all. But unfortunately, over the years, that's been rendered impossible by online firms like Zavvi, who just, I mean, when I first started, you would get 2 or 3 a month. Now, 2 or 3 a week, and then you've got all the other smaller online retailers as well. So I mean, there's just a mountain of stuff comes out now. So that goal of being a completist just went out the window. And now, basically, I just try to stick to films that I like, or films that I don't dislike. Let's put it that way. Or if it's a film that I don't like, if it's a nice steelbook, then I'll go for it. But that's how I sort of like maintain some sanity with the volume and the cost and what have you. So anyway, now that's out of the way, we'll start where we left off in the last video. Now, sometimes you're absolutely amazed by a steelbook. Now, this is a Forbidden Planet one. It's an old film. I think it came out in the early 50s, around about 53. Now this is absolutely outstanding steelbook. The reason I mention it is because a lot of old films, the steelbooks tend to be a bit dowdy and ordinary. But I mean, this is a lovely steelbook. I don't think I included it in my top 12 video that I did, but it certainly should have been there and would have been there. Maybe I didn't have it at the time. But actually, this triggers some nostalgic memories for me, because back in the 60s, things were a bit different to the way they are now. You know, we've got multiplexes, very comfortable multiplexes, where people seem to enjoy eating 3-course meals round about you and jumping on popcorn. Now, in the old days, we had cinema chains like ABC, Odeon. They were still there, but you had smaller independent cinemas. I mean, they still exist now, but you had more of them then, and they used to show films that were older. You know, whereas now you go to the cinema and all the films are current. The cinemas, they were called flea pits. Anybody of a certain age will know what I mean about flea pits, with springs sort of like sticking out the seats and whatever. And I remember I was about 12 when I went to see this. Now, back in the early 60s, we had a different classification of film. It was X for you had to be 16. A film you had to go with an adult, or U was like Universal, like Disney stuff and all of that. But I was quite a big chap when I was even 12, so I used to bunk into the cinema and watch these Dracula and all of that stuff, you know. But I mean, this film actually did give me the shivers in places, and for me, it's one of the classic science fiction films. In fact, I would regard it as one of the pioneering classic science fiction films. And the fact that they made a lovely steelbook out of it pleased me very much. That's that. Right now, yes, I saw this one not too long ago. Gatsby. It's a lot of people might remember. I think it was Robert Redford did the original film. This is a slick. I've seen this in Blu-ray, and it's a slick, nice-looking film. Not much I can say about it, really. I mean, it's got a stellar cast: Leonardo DiCaprio and Joel Edgerton, and Tobey Maguire, who's always a good turn. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice steelbook. There again, it's a goldish steelbook, and yeah, I mean, it was a decent film and a decent steelbook. So not much more I could really tell you about that one. Okay, now this is still sealed because I've actually seen it in ordinary. Yeah, now that's a lovely steelbook. I know a lot of people weren't enamoured with the Ghost Rider films, especially the second one, but I actually quite liked it. You know, I mean, a lot of people said Nicolas Cage wasn't right for the role, but I didn't mind it. But yeah, that was I think one of the Zavvi exclusives, and as I say, I haven't opened it yet, but it's a real nice steelbook. Nothing much to say about the film except you either enjoyed it or you didn't, you know. Now this one, right, G.I. Joe. There again, I've seen this on Blu-ray. It's a bit disappointing, to be honest. I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other action films that I've seen recently. It's actually a numbered. I think somewhere. I mean, it's one of these that's stuck down, so I can't show you. But there's somewhere round about the back or somewhere. There's a number on it, so it's a limited numbered edition, which you don't see very often these days. But it's a ho hum still. But I mean, last time I think it might have been Entertainment Store. I'm not sure. But last time I looked, there were still some available, amazingly. I mean, there weren't that many made. Something like 2,000, but yeah, I mean, it's a ho-hum steelbook of a middle-of-the-road film, so not much more to say, really. Now, sometimes a film gets made that to me is totally pointless. You know, you've got Daniel Craig, who's fine actor, Rooney Mara, who's one of the up and coming young actors, actresses or actors, whichever way you want to look at it. But I mean, I've seen the original of these, and that was just a pointless remake. The steelbook is pretty average, to be honest. But I don't really see the point of remaking stuff that has just been made, you know. So yeah, I wasn't too thrilled with that, to be honest. Another one that was a little bit of a disappointment, although the steelbook is very nice, I have to say. That's the 3D version of it in steelbook. It's not expensive. I mean, you can pick it up used quite cheaply now, but it was a film I expected a little bit more of, but yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's anyway, we'll forget about that one. Right, here's Bruce again in his latest Die Hard adventure. There again, it didn't get a great reception, but I quite enjoyed it. I like that style of film. As you can see, it's another one of HMV exclusives. Some HMV exclusives are quite scarce, while others are fairly plentiful. This one, I think, you can pick up fairly cheaply even now. Yeah, so I say it's nothing outstanding as a steelbook. It's one of those that you can slip out, and so I can show you the back. It's fairly standard as steelbooks go. Yeah, this is a nice steelbook. It's one of those that's indented with bullet holes. You know, when you first get it, you think, oh, my steelbook's knackered, but in actual fact, it's when you first see it through the cellophane, you think there's something wrong with that. But no, as I say, it's got the bullet holes intentionally. I like, as I said to you earlier, I like red, and that's a nice cover. I like that. It's two films in one, Planet Terror and Death Proof. Planet Terror I enjoyed because it was a spoof on the old 1950s science fiction movies. Death Proof I didn't, because it was just yap, and I didn't get into it. But yeah, nice back as well. Once again, it's a steelbook that's still available, Zavvi, as far as I know, and quite reasonably. So yeah, I mean, by all means, go for that one, because it's a half good film. Well, one half of the two films are good, I should say, and the steelbooks are very nice indeed. Okay, now, yeah, here's one that I actually went to see in 3D and enjoyed at the cinema, but I have to say it loses quite a lot of its impact when you just watch it on a TV screen. I mean, it's a decent enough movie. It's full of sort of tension and quite a bit of action in it. And of course, you know, Sandra Bullock, George Clooney are both quite respectable actors. But yeah, it's one of those that you really need to go to the cinema to see. As a Steelbook, it's missing the cover, whatever came with it. But I mean, I don't know why they bothered with that. It's a horrible back cover. I don't know if they redeemed themselves with anything on the inside. But let's have a quick look. Yeah, there's a few photographs. As I say, I'm not greatly keen on using photographs. I prefer to see artwork. But yeah, Gravity. Right, now this, I'm not a big fan of American humour, to be honest, but this was hilarious. Seth Rogen, Christoph Waltz is always a very good turn with two of the main people in that. I mean, this is, you see, I've had to stick this down. It's one of those that pops up when you don't stick it down with something decent. I'm not going to bother to unstick it, but as you can see from the cover there, it's a very nice Steelbook. I've seen a few of them knocking around keks and places. You can pick it up quite cheaply actually, and if you see it, if you're into collecting these things and you see it in keks, it probably only set you back about 5 or 6 quid. So yeah, it was. I thought it was going to be absolute rubbish when I watched it, but Green Hornet's not a big comic favourite of mine. But yeah, very good film, and it's a particularly nice Steelbook. I like that one. Now, talking about comic book favourites, Green Lantern from DC was a big favourite of mine, especially some of the recent-ish storylines they did. With the Rising of the Dead and all of that stuff. I forget what they call it now, but yeah, it was a good storyline. But that film is a total disappointment. Ryan Reynolds totally miscast as Green Lantern, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me at all. Having said that, the Steelbook's decent enough. You know, it typifies the Green Lantern character, you know, with the actual lantern. It's not the worst in the world, but yeah, I went to the cinema to see it, and I was very disappointed actually. But yeah, okay, the Steelbook's okay though. Nice green again, like the other one. And now then, talking of nostalgia, as I was with Forbidden Planet, this series of films, you know, most people who know about cinema are familiar with the Dollars films. I remember going to see this and being a little bit disappointed at first, because the Man with No Name character that Clint Eastwood plays, he went through most of this film just in a sort of like a coat, and I was used to seeing him in the classic poncho, and that kind of turned me off a little bit when I went to see it at the cinema way back in the day. But I've since rewatched it, and it's a very good film. I unfortunately haven't bought the other two out in Steelbook, but the particular favourite of mine in this series is the second film, A Few Dollars More. I went to the cinema 3 times in 4 nights to see it. I was that impressed, and I loved the Clint Eastwood character in that. And yeah, I just wish they would do the other two. I mean, the Steelbook's nothing particularly marvellous, but I still included it in my top 12 that I did recently, just because it's the Dollars films. Okay, now this is a recent film that I've seen. I mean, all I can say about this is it's got Ralph Fiennes in it. He is the funniest guy when he's doing comedy. Like, I don't know if anybody's seen In Bruges. I mean, that film is just hilarious. and it's because of him. I mean, Colin Farrell is quite funny, but he is hilarious. I mean, this is a very stylish film, I have to say. Not everybody's cup of tea. It's I don't know, kind of an action adventure comedy, if you like. It's hard to pigeonhole, but the actual Steelbook I like a lot. It's very unusual. Back not so good, but I think that's nice. Yeah, I mean Wes Anderson. He's not everybody's cup of tea. There's a few films he's made that I don't care for, but yeah, that's a nice one. It was quite expensive actually when it came out. I don't know what it's like these days, but well worth picking up. Okay, okie doke now. Hannah. Yeah, I must say I was quite struck by this. I was particularly struck by Saoirse Ronan, who I particularly like as an actor. I mean, she couldn't have been much more than what, 10 or 11 when she did this one. Might have been even younger. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, it's a very action-packed film, and she's great in it. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm just going to see if it comes out of here. It's a bit. No, it's too tight. Yeah, it's a very sort of like average Steelbook. Wish I could show you more of it. It's stuck down somewhere. But yeah, it's average Steelbook of a very decent film. Right, now this one's an oddity. Everybody will be familiar with the Harry Potter films, of course. I believe this is the only Steelbook they did. This is the Deathly Hallows Part 1. You know, split the last film into two. This is the Part 1. Now I've seen a lenticular cover for the second part, but I've not seen a Steelbook. So, I mean, maybe I've missed it. Maybe I've been asleep for the last however many years. But this is the only Steelbook I've come across. The first part of the Deathly Hallows is something that kind of grows on you. If you watch it again, it gets better. I wasn't too impressed the first time I saw it, but there's not much to be said about the Harry Potter films anyway. I mean, everybody's familiar. Right, here's a couple. Once again, it's one of those horrible sideways things that I don't care for. Yeah, Hellboy. Ron Perlman turning in a decent and funny performance as Hellboy. I mean, a lot of people will know this from the comics, and yeah, I mean, they were just good sort of action adventure films. I thought they might have made another one actually, to be honest, but yeah, I mean, that Steelbook's not so great. I like that one. That looks more like the Mike Mignola drawings in the actual comics, but yeah, as I say, they're both fairly cheap. So if you like Hellboy and you want to get into this Steelbook collecting lark, you could start there very cheaply. Okie dokie. Next we have. I'll show you these two as a pair because yeah. Now I've got to say, the Hobbit films surprised me because I wasn't a big fan of the Lord of the Rings films, but went to see all of them at the cinema, and I was well impressed, to be honest. I thought they were really stylish films, and you got kind of sucked in with the characters as well. Unfortunately, I haven't got round to getting the third part yet, the Five Armies. But I will pick it up. It's a bit expensive at the moment. It's one of those that doesn't seem to come down in price. But yeah, that one, there is another version of the first film, smaller version. That one's got all the bells and whistles and a load of stuff inside. Maybe just show you very briefly. It's one of those with like the Batman one I showed you in the last video, full of full of films. It's the extended edition, of course, so you'd expect that. But yeah, very, very happy with those films, and I think that's a nice Steelbook. That one, I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, The Hobbit. Okay, now that might look very plain to the untrained eye, but I find that kind of Steelbook quite appealing, to be honest. It's a bit minimalist, but I don't know, there's something about it that makes it stand out. The actual film itself is lovely to look at. I mean, I've seen it in Blu-ray, and I didn't go to the cinema to see it, but it's an absolutely lovely film. As a lot of these, when I say Asian film, whether they're made in Asia or whether they're on a ninja-ish Asian topic, they always look very, very stylish, and I found that to be so with this. There again, it's a peculiar Steelbook, this one. Now I don't know if you can see down here. I showed you the Avengers one that I had with a little dink in the cover. These look like they're actually manufacturing errors. You know, where something is, because I don't see how I could have put two perfectly close little dints like that in it. You know, normally if you put a dint in it, you can tell that it's you, but that looks like some sort of manufacturing error, because I have actually seen that on the odd game PS3 Steelbook that I've got, so that's a weird one. But yeah, that's there again. It's still available at Zavi as far as I know, and it's not too expensive. Right, now another little series, The Hunger Games. Yeah, these are all very, very, very similar. As I said in the last video, I'm not so keen on black backgrounded Steelbooks, but these are quite nice. Design. I haven't got the third film Part 2 yet, the Mockingjay Part 2, but I will when it comes down in price. I mean, I recently picked up the second film. That was just £4 used. I mean, you can't complain about that. Yeah, I mean, they're just very stylish Steelbooks. So I'll just whip that out. Very, very similar thing on the back. The other two are much the same. The actual films themselves, I can't say I'm too enthusiastic about. I found them a bit long, drawn out, and a bit samey, to be honest. But I know they were very popular, but not really for me. Okay. All right. Here we have the Hurt Locker. Basically, that was about bomb disposal people. Jeremy Renner, as I remember, was one of the main actors in it. It was one of those films that I can't really say was great, but I can't really say was bad either. It just followed a bunch of bomb disposal experts. It's one of them that I've left open because it's a bugger to seal down. Not a particularly brilliant Steelbook, but you know, that's all I can say about that one, really. Okay, now anybody who collects anything will have a hard luck story of stuff that they've missed at a good price. They'll have a good luck story of stuff they picked up. These two are my good luck story. Now, anybody getting into this hobby that is interested in collecting the Marvel Steelbooks is in for a nasty shock when they go on eBay and have a look at the prices of these. They will make your eyes water. If you're unlucky enough to be a sealed collector and you don't have these, then second mortgage time, really. These are really expensive. Now, the reason I say, I mean, even used, I've seen them up to £80 each. This one I missed I missed it when I think it was Play.com where these came out as exclusives, and a friend who works in a game shop tells me that who's into these. He tells me that this sold out within the hour. I don't know how many were produced, but I mean, I was too late when I went; they were long gone. But I actually walked into the Kex one day, and that was on the shelf. That was on the shelf along with X-Men First Class, which is another Play.com exclusive, another one that's quite hard to find. And I think that cost me £7, that cost me £6, and X-Men cost me £7. So that was like, what, 20 quid for the three, and as I say, sometimes you're looking at 80 quid just for one. So you can see where that was my my very good luck story. As films, that one's very decent. That one, not so much, because the villain wasn't so great. But yeah, as I say, I mean, I was lucky enough to find these in absolutely mint condition as well. So I'll save myself a few bob there. The reason, I mean, as everybody knows, there's 3 Iron Man films, and the reason I didn't pull that one out with the other 2 is because I want to talk about it a bit. Or really, I don't want to talk about it, to be honest. It's not, you know, you say, well, I'll tell you first, I hate this film. I despise it with a passion. The reason I hate it is because they took an iconic character in the Mandarin, who's one of the Iron Man. If anybody knows the comics, they know that Iron Man is one of the iconic arch villains, nemesis if you like, of Iron Man. And they absolutely ruined the film by, well, it's hard to explain what they did to the character. They totally misused him, let's put it that way. And they misused him in such a way that I don't think he could ever appear as a character, which is a shame, because up to the time that they revealed who he was or what he was, I was really enjoying this film. I thought the Mandarin was a brilliant character. Now you might say to me, if you hate the film so much, why have you got Steelbook? Because I'm a collector and I don't like incompleteness. So if there's 3 Iron Man films, I have to have the 3rd, even if it's rubbish. And because it's Marvel and I collect Marvel, but I mean, I don't really want to talk about it. Right, now this is one of those joke films that comes out from time to time. I don't really know what they were thinking when they made this. You know, with a name like Iron Sky, I thought, oh, that sounds interesting, a bit science fiction-y with Nazis in and out in space. I thought, oh, it's got to be good. Let me tell you, it ain't. I like the Steelbook. You know, it's one of those with the raised lettering and stuff. I forget what they call it. There's a name for it.
Embossed.
Embossed, yeah. Yeah, it's debossed and embossed. And that's embossed. It's debossed where you had the one, the Planet Terror I showed you with the bullet holes. That's debossed, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that's a really nice Steelbook. The back, I mean, it's all sort of stuck down. The back is really nice as well, but it's what I mean. I bought that on pre-order, so I paid way over the odds for it. But sometimes you do, you know, for every Iron Man that you find for £7, there's some pile of crap like that you buy for about 15. Never mind. Okay, Disney films tend to be very popular. This was one of those that sold out and then came back in again, and I think it's still available. John Carter. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people criticised it because of the cost. Now, I don't think that's a reason to criticise a film, because, you know, the cost of making it doesn't care. It's either an entertaining film or it isn't. I'm not a big fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. You know, the man who did Tarzan and what have you. But I've got to say, as a Steelbook, it's okay. I think the saving grace is the fact it's nice and red and bright, and I mean the back's But yeah, I mean, as an action adventure film, it was quite decent, I thought. Yeah, so we'll say about that. Okay, now here's some particular favourites of mine. I do like these films, and the contrast in those two steelbooks is just amazing. I mean, that is horrible. It's absolutely horrible as a steelbook. I mean, it's probably missing some sort of cover, although maybe it isn't, with all the gumph actually printed onto it. And yet that one is absolutely lovely. I mentioned earlier when I showed you Dark Shadows that there weren't many other purple steelbooks. Well, there's a bit of purple on there, but I mean these. I mean Chloe Grace Moretz just, well, kicks ass, quite honestly, in these films, and they are so funny and so action packed. Not everybody liked these films, I've got to say, but I thought they were absolutely outstanding. Nicolas Cage was in the first, Jim Carrey was the sort of the mentor bloke in the second, and I have to say, against all odds, Nicolas Cage did the better turn, I thought. But yeah, I mean, that one is reasonably scarce, but it's, as I say, it's not very nice looking at all. That one is more so scarce. I was lucky enough there again to find a minty copy of that in Kex for chicken feed, so I was well pleased, because that was out of print quite quickly. Okay, right, I'll show you all these together. Right, we've got Xavi did a set of the original Jurassic Park films, Jurassic Park, then The Lost World, and then 3. Right, okay, now everybody seems to like this. I found it okay. I mean, I wasn't a great fan of the original film, to be honest. Music brilliant. Steven Spielberg, you can't really knock, because he always does a good turn, and the actors, Sam Neill and those, were great. Jeff Goldblum, but I don't know, they just didn't appeal to me for some reason. 2 and 3 even more so. As I say, Xavi did a matching set, so even though I'm not a massive fan of the films, I thought the steelbooks were sufficiently nice to pick up. And then this one is another good luck story, because as you can see, I haven't unsealed this, although I have seen it in Blu-ray. This was, as you can see, an HMV exclusive, and this actually sold out very quickly. Films come out on the Monday, and I normally go to HMV on a Friday, and it was gone. And then the next week I went into HMV and I saw Jurassic World sticking out. That looks like the steelbook. And luckily enough, they'd found one in the storeroom, I guess, and just bunged it in, you know, and I was able to get my hands on it. That was this went up in price. That was the RRP, of course. And I don't think you can pick this up, you know, very cheaply, fairly cheaply even now. But yeah, I went to the cinema to see it as well, and I wasn't, as I say, I've never been a fan of the Jurassic Park films, and that didn't really do anything to alter my opinion. But yeah, as I say, it's just the original ones are just a nice little set. I think you can pick them up fairly reasonably also. Just give me a second to reintroduce them. Right, I'll take these last 3 out because they get stuck in the corner. Right, button those back up. Okay. Now, this is one of the few films that I have on Steelbook that I actually haven't seen. I don't know anything about it. All I know is it's a nice steelbook. I originally thought it was an HMV exclusive, but it isn't, I don't think. I don't know, it was being knocked out for about 20 quid. That's about what I paid for it, because I hadn't seen any around. It's the only copy I've seen. But I haven't researched it online to see what it costs currently, so I can't really tell you much about that other than it's yeah, it's a decentish looking cover. Right, what do we have? Okie dokie. Now, here's a film that everybody hated. Johnny Depp once again. Getting a bit of bad press lately, poor old Johnny, for his roles and various other things. But I actually enjoyed this film, I've got to say. You know, Johnny Depp wandering around with his headpiece, I forget what it was, but total lunatic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of westerns normally. I mean, I remember The Lone Ranger from the original TV series back in the day. I mean, way back in the day, and it was a long film. A lot of people, as I say, didn't care for it, but I liked it. The Steelbook is unusual. It's got that weird style of artwork. I don't know what you call it. It looks like an oil painting, but yeah, I flew in the face of popular opinion there by actually liking that film. Right, now, very occasionally you get a film that comes along and you think, what the hell went on in that film? I mean, I've got to admit that time travel does my head in at the best of times, although I do enjoy time travel films. I've got another one up there I'll talk to you about later. But yeah, that's in a similar style to
Ender's Game.
To Ender's Game that I showed you in the last. It's quite nice, and back not so much, but yeah, that's a nice film. But just don't try and make a head and arse of it, because I certainly couldn't. I don't know what Bruce Willis is up to these days, but yeah, it was strange. So, right, we're at the end of the top row at least. We're getting along very nicely. Right, stick them in there so they don't fall down. Right, now let's start. Okay. Yeah. Moving along to DC. I didn't really know what to make of this, to be honest. I mean, the last reboot of the Superman franchise they did, I went to the cinema to see it, and I thought it seemed okay, but then I tried to rewatch it, and it bored me to death. This one is better. I think Henry Cavill makes a half decent Superman and Clark Kent, although why anybody can't recognise him in his glasses just because he's got glasses on, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was a good action adventure with a decent story. The Steelbook is, yeah, okay. Oops, what a bit of a problem there. Right, lob that back in. Okay. Now, variously, I've seen that pigeonholed as a comedy. Poor guy stranded on Mars having to fend for himself for God knows how long. There were a few light moments in it, but I wouldn't exactly classify it as a comedy. But that seemed to be the overriding opinion of it. I don't know why. You can't go wrong with this, really. I mean, Matt Damon, Ridley Scott. For me, the dream team. I love both of them. And it was you know, it's a longish film, but it was interesting just seeing this poor bloke's plight, you know, and how he solved it. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that. I actually recently bought another very nice edition of it. That's the extended edition that came just a couple of days ago. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. It's all sealed up. But that's a lovely cover. I'm really impressed with that. I mean, that's sort of bog standard middle of the road Steelbook stuff, you know, big face on the cover, but that is really sort of outstanding. That I don't know what you would call that style of artwork, but it's I'm not a big fan of just having pictures of faces on the front of Steelbooks. I think they could make more of an effort. Although that became quite expensive quite quickly. I don't know whether that's sold out or not. I can't remember now. But yeah, certainly watching that very shortly. Alrighty. Now, sometimes you drop a clanger by pre-ordering, as I mentioned in the last film, pre-order or not, it's up to you. But yeah, I mean the Matrix films came as a. I've seen these a couple of times, so I haven't actually unsealed these yet. Yeah, the first film, great, really enjoyed the first film. Second film, not so much. You know, as very often happens with trilogies, the second film kind of sags a bit, and that was the case with this. The third film I don't mind so much, but I mean I pre-ordered all these, I think about 15 quid each, and you can pick them up for less than a tenner each now on Zavvi. So yeah, maybe it was a case of maybe waiting, but as Steelbooks go, I've seen worse. I'm not too keen on that one, but the other two are sort of half decent. That's all I can show you because they're all set up. If you want strange, I'm not talking about the film, by the way. Here I'm talking about the Steelbook itself. If you want strange, I haven't seen anything much stranger than that, to be honest. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't get it. You know, you can obviously see Will Smith's outlining sort of kind of semi-silhouette there, and all these. It's just lost on me that. I mean, it's Men in Black 3, by the way, in case you hadn't divined. The film itself, not great. I enjoyed the first film in the franchise, but yeah, I mean that is just one weird Steelbook to me, and I don't know what it's all about. I don't know. Mission Impossible. That is a compilation of all of the Mission Impossible films, all of which I've enjoyed, except number 2, which I found deadly dull for some reason. Stuck down, so I'm not messing about with it. But it's basically it's got a couple of rows of films inside there. Obviously, it's 5 films, and it's another one of these that sold out on pre-order and then mysteriously came back in again. Although I don't think it's all that cheap now. I think it's still fairly expensive. But yeah, I mean it's nice. It's nice to have. I find with these, it's nice to have all the films in one collection. Just, you know, it's the same size as any other case. So yeah, I mean I was pleased with that. It wasn't too expensive either for 5 films, I have to say. Stuck up there, right? Okay, now this was a very odd film. Yeah, Sam Rockwell marooned on the moon. I'll try that again. Yeah, it was one of those films where you're constantly trying to figure out what's actually going on, because 2 of him turns up at one point, and then weirdly you had Kevin Spacey as the voice of the computer. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I quite enjoyed it when I saw it, but it was a very strange film, and in actual fact, it's a rather strange Steelbook, although in a way kind of unique. I've never seen anything quite like that. Can't show you the back, but yeah, as I said again in black. I'm not keen in black. Okay, then I'm getting a right mess up here, so you'll just excuse me for one moment. I'll just have to do some rearrangement before I I ruin any more Steelbooks. Right, okay. We're back on track. Yeah, I remember buying this many moons ago. It was one of the earlier Steelbooks, not sort of like right early, but it was maybe in the second or third year of Steelbooks. As again, it's missing a cover, I would imagine, although it does have all the gumph on it. But it's I think I'm not sure, but I think it's missing an art book that came with it, as I remember. I quite enjoyed the film. Went to the cinema to see it. Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell. It's based on a story by Philip K. Dick. Good action adventure, I found, science fiction. But yeah, the Steelbooks, okay, seen worse. There's another seal jobby. Yeah, HMV do these little deals occasionally. I have to say HMV are pretty strange with their pricing of steelbooks. They seem to think that steelbooks are somehow valuable, HMV, but very occasionally they do drop prices. And you know, I got something. Obviously, got another steelbook in this too for 25. So 12.5 quid for a sealed steelbook's okay. I mean, you can't buy it much cheaper second hand. The Maze Runner, yeah, it's one of those films that I was kind of, yeah, it's okay. I've seen worse. I don't know. I suppose these kind of films appeal more to a teenage audience, perhaps because of the characters that were in it. But yeah, I mean, I was happy enough to pick it up at that price. There is a sequel to that now, but okay. Now, if we're going to talk about old films, there's an old film, 1929, or certainly 1920s anyway. Metropolis. Probably, if you classify it as science fiction, which I suppose you have to. Probably one of the very earliest mass market science fiction movies. I haven't actually seen it on Blu-ray, although I have seen it. And this one is a collector's edition with it's stuck down. Unfortunately, I'd like to show it to you, but I'm not going through the rigmarole. No, it doesn't even show you on the back. It's pretty boring back. Yeah, it's got a booklet in it. It's quite heavy actually. And actually, this I bought this second hand in Kex for a very reasonable price. Originally at RRP for about 35 quid. It was very expensive, but I could only recommend it to you if you're prepared to sit through 2 hours odd of black and white 1929 vintage. But it's, as I say, it's like Forbidden Planet. It's one of the pioneering science fiction movies, and of course very famous. Right, now, this was in one of HMV's sales that they do. I think it's three Blu-rays for 20 quid and 5 for 30 quid. Steelbooks don't normally make it into that cheap a range. Now, I saw the first film. I bought it because it's got a lenticular cover, and I also collect lenticular covers. And I liked the first film. It was a bit amateurish in places, but I don't know, it kind of had its charm. This one, on the other hand, I found exceedingly dull. I don't know, it's just something about it that got on my wick. But it's quite a nice. It's quite a nice steelbook. I mean, it's well worth the £5 I paid for it. That's brand new, as part of a deal. But yeah, it's a film that just didn't didn't appeal to me at all. It's getting awkward. And now then, okay. These, the reason I picked these up is because, it's, as you can see, it's a 2 film set by Disney. Disney films are often very popular, and sometimes they sell out on Zavvi. I like both the films. I think Ed Harris was in the second one, who I like in particular. Nicolas Cage, of course, was in both of them. Yeah, I mean, I bought these on pre-order as usual for a Disney film, but once again, this is a set that have come down in price. You can pick these up quite reasonably on Zavvi now. As steelbooks, I find them quite nice, particularly that one. As I said to you in the last video, gold is my favourite, and that kind of reminds me of. I don't know if anybody watching these videos are familiar with the old pulp characters, but there was a character called Doc Savage in the 30s and 40s in the old pulp magazines, and that is very reminiscent of the type of stuff that they did for that type of thing. So yeah, that's a nice steelbook. This one, green, I'm not so keen on. Once again, it's got a grainy image on the back, but yeah, probably overpaid for those, but that's something you should watch out for when you pre-ordering, if you like the film or not. Right, Need for Speed. I'm very familiar with the game series of Need for Speed because I used to play them all the time. The actual film, I've seen better. I mean, I like the Fast and Furious franchise. This one was fairly bog standard, car chase, heisty type of thing, as I remember. Aaron Paul, which you'll know from Breaking Bad. Thank you. Interesting back cover, but I'd rather have seen that on the front actually, because I like silver. That kind of overpowers the silver, but yeah, I mean it's not bad. Okay steelbook for a very okay film. Right, here's my mate Liam Neeson. Now, I don't care what anybody says about Liam Neeson. I like him. I like his films. I like the Taken series and all of that stuff. I've, like as I mentioned in the last video I did, Denzel Washington never does a bad turn. For me, this guy never does a bad turn. I mean, he's not the best actor in the world, but I don't know. I just find this sort of action adventure for the older guy appeals to me. Probably because I'm an older guy, you know. But yeah, that one was mainly set on a plane where he's a security guy and he's trying to stop something from going on. But as a steelbook, not particularly good. Okay, now talking of good turns as I was about this guy, Jake Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler. That's a nice steelbook. It's stylish. Reminds me a bit of the Dead Man one I showed you in the last video. Jake never does a bad turn, and yeah, I mean I watched this a few months ago. Basically, he's a cameraman that gets famous over time and becomes a crusader, as I remember. But yeah, I mean it's a nice steelbook of a very reasonable film. Okay, now we're coming towards the end of the video, so right now, Old Boy, very good film, I find. Nice steelbook as well. It's not particularly expensive either. I mean, the fact that they remade it was a bit of heresy, really, because it's kind of in a genre of its own. I enjoyed it. There's some very funny and strange scenes in it. Park Chan-wook is, of course, one of the top Korean directors. So yeah, I mean, you can buy that quite reasonably, and if you see it and you're into steelbooks, please do. Alright, we've got time for a couple more. We'll try and get to the end of the O's here. Right, I love that film. Love it. I know it got mixed reviews, but that, and I just recently seen the sequel to it, which was also good. I really enjoyed it. It's our mate from, what's his name?
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler, that's the bloke. Yeah. Basically, he's a secret agent who looks after the president. And what goes on in that film is nobody's business. Totally unbelievable. But as an action film, you couldn't really beat it. And as a steelbook, it's half decent. Right, we've got two more till we get to the end of the O's, so we'll get them done. Right, Tom Cruise, Oblivion. I wasn't greatly enamoured of this film. I think this was an HMV exclusive. I've certainly not seen it around, so I'm glad I picked it up when I did. It was actually the last copy that they had, so I picked it up. It's a nice steelbook. It's a nice matte finish, and yeah, I find that quite aesthetically pleasing. Of a film that, as I say, I didn't, for a science fiction film, I didn't particularly enjoy. This is our friend Nicholas Winding Refn again. The director, Ryan Gosling, Only God Forgives. It's very hard to see because it's very dark, and I haven't unsealed it. I've actually seen the film, and it's another one of those films that you've really got to work out what's going on. It's as with a couple of Refn's films, it's a bit obscure, shall we say, but it's well worth a look, and it's I don't think it's hard to come by. So yeah, anyway, we've got to the end of the O's. I know I do carry on at length about some of these films, but if I have to do 10 videos, then that's the way it's going to be. Anyway, thanks very much for looking in again, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye now.